Yesterday, a New York Times columnist floated a truly groundbreaking duo to run in 2024. Thomas Friedman wrote that a Biden and Liz Cheney ticket in 2024 would, quote, "This is the Democratic way of defeating a threat to democracy." CNN's Chris Cillizza retweeted a Wall Street Journal opinion piece that had an even better idea. The Journal started out the piece by saying, quote, "A perfect storm in the Democratic Party is making a once fathomable scenario plausible, a political comeback for Hillary Clinton in 2024. Democratic pollster and CEO of Schoen Cooperman Research, Carly Cooperman, and partner at the CGCN Group, Sam Gadoldig, here to weigh in on the 2024 commentary. Welcome to you both."
Thank you.
So Sam, which of these two tickets would be more delightful for Republicans?
I honestly don't think the Biden-Cheney thing is a real thing in any way at all. Like, the first question would be which of them is willing to check their principles at the door to lead the country. Like, I just don't know how they'd get there. So,
but it was in a Thomas Friedman column, so
right. Like,
I mean, anything in a Thomas Friedman column has to be taken extremely seriously.
The ticket that stands for getting elected, I suppose. Like, I don't know what they could possibly agree on. So I think that would be an interesting, kind of endeavor. Hillary, who knows? We'd love to run against her again. The thing that I think is really fascinating is the lack of minority diverse candidates that Democrats can put forward. There's a lot of angst about Kamala Harris. At least I read that. I don't talk to many Dems, but they don't have many statewide elected officials that are Black or Hispanic. There's no one in the farm system. It's been that way for half a century, probably the entire history of the American political system. So, I just I wonder how they're going to get their base motivated. Biden tried to do it yesterday. I don't think it went great, but Hillary would be great. To answer your question, we would love to run against Hillary.
Carly, what about you as a Democratic strategist? What do you think of the strategy, Biden replacing Kamala Harris with Liz Cheney?
I think it's going to be a stretch. I think that we're seeing in a lot of poll data right now that voters are clearly frustrated with the status quo and seek unity for sure. But I think that it will be something that would be very difficult for voters on both sides of the aisle to wrap their heads around. I think that the concept of it in terms of trying to bring voters together, I understand that, but I think that at the end of the day, there would be a lot of resistance from both Democrats and Republicans to bring those two together because it just feels like a gap that's insurmountable.
And I also think you'd have some non-trivial portion of Democrats, 1 in 5, hopefully maybe even more, who just would say, no, there's no world in which I'm voting for Liz Cheney. Like, are you insane? Especially not for a Biden second term, when there's quite a distinct possibility that a Biden vice president, is going to become president. The Iraq War was not that long ago. She still thinks the Iraq War was a great idea. Her father orchestrated it, and you're going to ask Democrats to vote for it? It's completely insane. But Sam, what is Liz Cheney's future in the Republican Party? Like, how long do you think she even stays in office or stays a Republican?
I assume she's running for re-election. I think it'll be, not the easiest primary to win, but I think she can absolutely win it. And I assume she wants to have a role in the party. And I think it's great that she's in the party. Like, I'm for Republicans winning elections. So I think there's a role for every Republican. She represents a very conservative state. I think she has conservative principles. It's why I think this Biden-Cheney ticket is so absurd, because she does have principles. I think the thing that, unites her and Biden are their disdain for Trump. And that's great, but you don't run a country because you both don't like one person. That's like not a mandate for anything. And that's what I think the problem Democrats have in general is they're so fixated on how much everyone used to maybe not like the president, Trump, and they thought that was like a unifying kind of rallying cry. And now that he's out of office, I just think it falls really flat, and they look desperate to try to tie everything to Trump. Look at the Youngkin-McAuliffe race. It doesn't work. It's like, I get it. Trump was polarizing in a lot of ways, and a lot of voters maybe got tired of it. But calling everyone, kind of just putting everyone in the same exact bucket, it just doesn't work. And I think that's why they're having so many kind of like identity issues right now.
Seems like both parties are having big identity issues at the moment. I mean, I don't know if Liz Cheney really represents Republicans, as at least how the Republican Party is shifting. It's clearly going more populist. People in the Republican Party many of the voters are not in line with the Bush, Cheney, McCain years. They've kind of shoved those people out of the party. They don't want them representing them anymore. So it's kind of interesting to see. But these predictions drew so much flack online across party lines that it was truly a rare moment in bipartisanship, not the kind you want. But according to Hill reporter Hannah Trudeau, centrists are warning progressives to stay in line as Democrats enter a challenging midterm year. Hillary Clinton herself has said that progressives should rethink their campaign efforts in already blue territories if Democrats wish to keep their political power. Meanwhile, it looks like President Trump may be angling for another run at the White House. Trump revealed on One America News, so that's OAN, a notoriously conservative media source, that he had received his booster and that politicians who won't confirm if they've had or have not, quote, are gutless, and that the vaccines have saved tens of millions of people throughout the world, he said. But Carly, let me ask you, when we are looking at, seems to be like a world against Trump, right? But with them saying progressives have to back off, what do they really mean about backing off? Like, when they say that to progressives, what policies are they talking about?
Yeah, look, I think that what the Democratic Party is seeing right now is that Biden's ratings have been down. And, what happened in the election last fall in Virginia, in New Jersey, too, even when it was a much closer race than anticipated, is that voters are not happy with the direction of the country right now, and they're not happy with how things are going. And I think that, Democrats thought Biden was going to come in and things were going to change. And, unfortunately, the coronavirus is still here and the economy is still facing challenges. And so you have this party now where there's two factions, right? There's progressives, there's more centrist-oriented Democrats. But we're seeing that with Biden's ratings dropping and dissatisfaction with Democrats right now being prevalent, there's this feeling that the Democratic Party is out of touch with voters. And so some of the more progressive policies maybe feel disconnected from the ordinary Americans, like hardworking Americans, their day-to-day needs, where they just feel like their quality of life is not getting better. And so some of the more really high spending bills, inflation is going up. People want to feel like they're being heard. And I think the concern is that those too far on the left, if they're advocating for these ideals, it's just going to push people away even further. And I think there's an opening in the space where Democrats, their policies might be popular, but they're not getting the message out right now that they understand and hear the concerns that voters are facing and the hardships and the challenges that they have right now.
Right, and Sam, Republicans are extremely confident they're going to take the House this fall, but how do you compare that to the confidence they have that 2024 will be a big Republican year and that they'll win the White House no matter who the nominee is?
Well, so the wealthiest congressional districts are almost overwhelmingly represented by moderates in both parties, Republicans and Democrats. The 100 wealthiest, 76 of those districts are held by Democratic kind of lawmakers in the House. Taking control of the House is not the same as winning a electoral college presidential kind of a campaign. So, you've got those 76 Democrats are vulnerable. We're going to pick up a lot of those seats, and that'll flip. Republicans will then have a majority of the wealthiest congressional districts in the country as a result of them losing. Generally, wealthy, suburban, centrist politicians like the status quo. And they're not wrong when they complain, and Republicans do it when Trump was in office, and they did it when George W. Bush was in office, that when you run these base campaigns or these base messaging strategies, you're alienating these centrist soccer moms, whatever people want to call them. And they're right. That's how you lose control of the House. Those wealthy districts swing Congress. Winning in 24 is going to be an electoral college strategy. Hillary Clinton famously didn't campaign in Michigan, and she bragged about all the votes she got in California. And, it's like, oh, cool, but you lost by the rules, So I don't know who their nominee is going to be. I know our guys feel like we have the wind at our back because there's so much anger at this administration, coupled with maybe Pelosi and Schumer and their messaging, which seems to not kind of be coherent or be effective, at least from a legislative strategy. They're not accomplishing anything despite having, a block control of the House, Senate, and White House. So I think our guys will feel good. I think they'll feel really good after a good midterm election. But this problem that these wealthy, moderate, centrist politicians have in both parties isn't going to go away. Republicans will complain about it when we take control next year, and they'll argue that we've gone too far to the right. That's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah, looking forward to that. All right, well, Sam and Carly, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Good to see you guys.
And we'll have more Rising right after this. Stick around.